In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how the Get It template works within my virtual classroom, so how I've adapted it to suit this environment. Now, the first thing students see is a Voki, and Jaffa introduces the activities and sets the objectives. The first activity students actually do is called Get Ready. It's an anticipatory set, and what I've used there is a link out to Mathletics or learning objects. So I choose short and simple interactive activities to get them ready to learn. Number 2 is called Tutorial, and I've created tutorials there for the students which model and guide them through the skills and procedures they need to learn in this session. As they work through the tutorial, they're asked to pause, attempt a question using a pen and paper in their booklet, and then they press play and the solution comes up. And so that shows them what they should have done, so guiding them through, and it also is a good way of modelling communication and the setting out that we expect. Okay, so that's number 2, tutorial. Number 3 is independent practice. So they've been modelling and guiding there in tutorial. Now it's time for their independent practice. I've chosen Mathletics because it gives a lot of instant feedback to the students, which is important. It also has a number of features which enable differentiation to occur, and it's self-motivating for the students. They often try again and build points up and try and build their score up, which is great. Okay, so that's at this stage, that's the first 3 activities of the session. And at this point now we move on to activity 4, which is where the higher order thinking begins. Okay, now activity 4 is where the Australia Zoo context also begins, and that's basically where students are making decisions using maths at the zoo, or predictions, or solving multi-step problems. Now, essentially what we've done is set up a wiki. I've set up a wiki for this because, as you'll see with the setup, it's an opportunity for students to learn from each other. They click, there's a demonstration there to show them what to do, but they click on the appropriate session they're up to, and in this case they have to make a decision about who is the bigger crocodile, Mossman or Weeper, and they're given the length of the crocodile and the mass. Okay, so the first step is to watch a short film that I've made which engages them with the problem and sets it out for them, and then they actually do the problem in their booklet. So basically they get engaged and then have a go. Okay, now to check that attempt that they've made, they then go and check a pencast. So they click a link there and open up to the LiveScribe site, so it's using a LiveScribe pen. And what we've arranged for there is I've got a couple of students who study Year 9 Maths, who are excelling in Year 9 Maths, to come in and solve the problems together with me, and we discuss them. And so what they do is they're modelling problem-solving techniques, different methods to solve problems. Sometimes they agree and sometimes they've got different methods, which is great, between each other, and also different solutions. And sometimes the problems are quite open, so they're showing completely different solutions sometimes to the same question. Okay, so students watch that and learn from that and compare their answer to that pencast. Now, step 3, are there different ways to solve this problem? Obviously, sometimes we can use a different method to get the same answer, or if it's more open, we can use a different method and get a different solution entirely, and it can still be good and valid. So at this point, we ask students to add a comment, and that's the purpose of using the wiki. We get them to add a comment if they have a different method or solution which they believe is good. If they don't have that, something different, they are asked to check the comments and learn from each other. So they're learning from the pencast and they're learning from each other via the comments in the wiki. Okay, and the final step is the easy one. You click back to activity 5, portfolio. Okay, so that was activity 4 within the wiki. And activity 5 is called portfolio, and it's a private blog entry that the students make as their last activity for the session. The type of activity varies. This one here is a similar question to the one they just saw in the wiki. So I've given them a similar question, and then they watch a pencast again, which I've done, which is a faulty solution. So I've deliberately made a mistake. So they need to identify the error and improve my solution. And they do that by going in and typing it in their blog. Okay, now I'll just very quickly go in and show you what the blogs look like. They click on their teacher's name and then find their name. So they're typing in there the improvements that they make to my solution. And the other option that we're really trying to encourage is for them, sometimes I ask them to create their own question. And there's an example of a question created there. I've given some ideas via a pencast. Say, if you're creating your own question, here's some ideas. But still left them, enough initiative open there for the students. And what we do with these private blogs is we keep an eye on the students' progress and check for their understanding. If we find there are misconceptions, we can address them. Usually the way I do it is through my weekly conference, because we tend to pick up trends about what they're not quite understanding and discuss it as a small group. The other thing we can do is these questions they've created, we can actually share them with each other during our conference and try and solve each other's questions. And sort of learning from each other there about how good someone's question was compared to perhaps someone else's, which is maybe a fairly unsophisticated question. So it's sort of challenging students and so forth. Not really a competitive environment, but just sort of showing, hey, someone so-and-so did this. And sometimes it's not who you would expect, who can write and create a great question. Range of students in the class, of course. So that's essentially the 5 activities that you see in each session. Seems to be going well. Students are learning well. The blog entries are, I guess, a good indication of that. And also we can check their mathletics results and things like that and see their percentages. And early days still, just started the 3rd week when I'm making this. And but yeah, their results, I guess in a not a formal assessment sense yet, but in what they've done so far, they just appear to be learning very well. I can tell that from my weekly conference and their blog entries and even their mathletics marks. So I think the Get It template is great, particularly its emphasis on the higher order thinking skills. If you'd like to look at some example lessons, they're underneath this video. Thanks.